recording in progress.
Okay, we have liftoff. Hopefully, this is going to work. Always a bit awkward to start with technical issues. And this is the first time I'm wearing this kind of headpiece and microphone gadget. But you can hear me. We're all good. And
Yep.
I can hear you. Hopefully, the audience will hear us as well. So, this is episode 8 of Headfirst by Pilots Are Blue. And this week we're talking about relationships, our favourite subject.
Mm, yep.
Have you given this any thought?
I'm just going to look at the questions you got.
So yeah, we put some questions together. I also have a few statements, and I just thought we can throw some stuff at it. Would you like to
access my visual display unit?
Firstly, how's your mental health been this week? Are you okay? How you?
Yeah, it's been okay actually. I've kind of dropped a valerian, so I'm only on
Just
one
now?
valerian pill a night.
Oh really?
They're great,
Struggling a
but
bit with split sleep.
they just felt sluggish the next day.
Yeah.
Like especially at work, if I had like something kicking off, I have to like really kind of like immediately get focused on. Just couldn't do it really, not without a strong coffee inside me. But
Sure.
now
Has
I've
it
got
been
one.
really
Now I'm on the
intense
one
then?
valerian. It's kind of okay. And I've been doing more exercise, been cycling a little bit, and tons of walking,
Yeah.
which helps.
Has
So
that gone a bit nuts then?
yeah, well, kind of like my boss is off ill at the moment, so I'm kind of having to deal with her stuff,
Mm-hmm.
which a lot of it I don't really understand. So and a lot of it's quite
So
important.
winging it.
So
Oh, bless you.
yeah, so no, it's been all right. What about you? How's the head space?
Yeah, well, it's not been brilliant. My computer broke down, so
Oh yeah, of
kind
course,
of all
yeah.
just been so frustrating.
It's
I
amazing though,
had
isn't
a
it? How
day
kind
of
of like
hunting around.
when technology fails, it's kind of how kind of isolated you feel and panicked, you
Yeah,
know.
depending on what you do. I mean, obviously, if you've got a really super important job and then you've just lost a bunch of work,
Yeah,
that's
but just
terrifying.
yeah, just generally though as well, like communication. It's kind of like
Sure, yeah.
you know,
I mean, what would you
um,
do? What would we do without our phones,
yeah. I mean, I haven't got a landline anymore.
Really?
Yeah, it's just guys,
Yeah.
we're not worth it. So
Oh,
you know, um,
so you don't need it for work or anything?
landline.
Everything's on
No,
your,
no,
so you
no.
got,
Everything's
yeah.
Teams calls. Yeah,
Have you got two work? Have you got a work phone as well as a?
I have got a work phone. Yeah, so but I only really use that for you have to do this kind of um, what's it called? Multi-factor authentication. So if you have to log on to something for the first time in ages or something like that, it sends like a code or something to your phone, and you have to kind of like use that code to be able to prove it's you log in kind of thing. And so I mean, I'm not,
That's
I don't need,
complicated already.
I'm not a salesperson or anything like that. I don't need a phone for work much really.
Yeah.
So yeah,
So
so it's
why are you
just
struggling with sleep just because
just
of the intensity of the load of work or?
just sleep. Well, sleep's been like the last couple of years really selling loads of things like selling my flat. That's been like very stressful and very financially stressful. And it's still, I see it's still kind of up in the air now. It's kind of like we're at the last, almost at the last bit, and another spanner's gone into the
Oh
thing
no.
regarding the lease.
Yeah.
Lease.
Oh, what a
So
pain.
uh, so yeah, so that's stressful. Just general work's been a bit stressful. Family, health's been stressful. Um, just all these kind of things. And when you feel stressed and sort of down, the last thing you want to do is get off and go for a long walk or a cycle.
Yeah.
So which is what you need to do. But started going back the last few months back to yoga on a Monday night.
Cool. Oh, that sounds
That's
great.
been that's been quite good. That's been really really good.
Yeah. It's really good for the mental health, isn't it?
Yeah.
I really had to push myself today and just take a long walk, and I didn't regret it. It was gorgeous weather. It's like nearly
Yeah, yeah.
26, 27 degrees.
Well, Friday's my day that I treat myself. I used to go because money's quite tight at the moment, so I used to go to coffees most days down the local cafe. But now as a treat, I only go on a Friday. So Friday was my Cafe Nero
Yeah.
day. So it's quite nice actually. Kind of, makes it more of a treasured experience, I suppose.
Yeah.
Um,
And
I
then,
still go. I still go out at lunchtimes the other
refreshes you,
days and have
doesn't
a
it? To get,
walkabout. So
yeah. You definitely need breaks in between everything. I mean,
coffee,
I've
hey.
done all this, I've just been glued to the screen because I'm obviously doing the design degree, and it's just been a lot of uploading stuff, sketching. I've actually gone out on the field and done, sketching in public spaces, that kind of
All
thing,
right.
taking photos. Yeah, so it's all good. It's really interesting. But yeah, I've had to push myself to just get into nature and do some of that stuff. Otherwise, I just
Isn't there there's that
turn into a
saying, isn't there,
cyborg.
that there's that saying, when you feel kind of like a bit down and that, whatever you don't feel like doing is what you need to do,
Mm, yeah,
So
definitely. And then you kind of, yeah, it just expands your mind a little bit, doesn't it? Because it's kind of, oh, I didn't realize this could actually make me feel different. And it does, even just that little bit of adjustment, you know?
I mean, it's kind of like moving, moving the body,
Yeah.
getting out of the environment you're in.
I mean,
I
obviously,
mean,
yoga is brilliant, isn't it? I love a bit of stretching. I've tried to just do a bit of that
yeah, I do.
day
Well,
to
because I've
day.
been to the chiropractor so many times over the years, I've got all these various exercises that I was given for like shoulder problems and my Achilles problems. So I do a little bit of stretching. I do those exercises every day. It's like 10 minutes or something like that. But it really kind of like if I don't do them, I really notice my body really notices.
Yeah. And you
So
can start to seize up, right?
yeah, yeah. So
Yeah.
it just and I work from home, so it's just me and the cat. So I have to get out at lunchtimes and just walk, be around the outside world for a bit.
Mm.
So yeah,
And how's the covers band going?
yeah. All right, we haven't had a got a rehearsal week next Tuesday, I think. We haven't had a rehearsal for a couple of weeks. Um, yeah, we got a gig. Our first gig is at the drummer and his wife having a joint 40th birthday party. And his
Cool.
band, he's in like a punk covers band, or as in a kind of like um, Blink 182 or whatever they are, whatever the numbers are. He's in that kind of covers band, but they were going to play his party, but they've had to pull out because I think a couple of them, the members can't make it now. So he said, "Do we want to step in?" And but two of the band, two of my covers band, have got another gig in the evening in Oxford, so we've got to go
Right.
on in the afternoon sometime for an hour. So yeah,
Yeah.
that'll be interesting. So a lot of them aren't kind of totally there, if you know what I mean, totally kind of tight.
Mm.
So you kind of get them tight, and then you don't rehearse for 3 weeks,
Yeah.
and I've had to learn some guitar solos, which I've never ever do guitar solos, So that's kind of a bit of an experience.
Ooh,
So,
exciting.
but
Um,
this is relationships this week.
yeah, so we're going
Yep.
back to relationships, the subject of relationships,
Mhm.
and the statements to ponder are hurt people, discuss.
Yeah, and I can see. I mean, I think in any kind of not just romantic relationship, but so when we talk about relationships, we talking about romantic relationships or just general relationships?
I guess we could intermingle them for sure, because I think
Yeah, because I know the hurt.
friendships
Yeah, I
are
know
all
that.
part of this fabric, aren't they, of relationships working out. And then we've got the thing of, do we have friendships after a relationship? It's all such a
Yeah,
murky
yeah, it's tricky.
area,
But
isn't it?
the hurt people hurt people. I mean, I think I went on a counselling. I did a counselling course once, and part of it was quite interesting, and it talked about Is that classic, the bully bullies the weaker person, then the weaker person then bullies someone else, um, and there was a classic example where you got an authoritarian dad, and the son comes home crying because he just been in a fight, and instead of the father giving him kind of love and care and stuff like that, the father just basically tells him, "What are you crying for? You should be a man." Blah blah blah. Which now tells the son if he wants to get love from his dad, he has to put on this mask of being, a big kind of like, you know, kind of fighter, which he's
Yeah.
not. So that's how it all kind of starts, and of course then he's repressing all this kind of stuff. He's a hurt person.
Mm.
And I should
So would you
imagine
say it's generational? That it's stemming
I
from a
think it
very,
can be.
very,
I think it can be. I mean, I think obviously your upbringing. If you've got if you're kind of like introverted or something as a kid, and all the extroverts kind of knock all the confidence out of you,
mm,
that's kind of ingrained into you. And even when you get older and you kind of know what that's all about, you're still have got that behavior thing in you where if you're in a situation, like I'm completely like that. If I get in a situation where I'm around people that are loud and ego-y, and I just have to get out. Instead of, well, I used to just kind of like stay quiet, disassociate,
mm,
pretend it's not happening. Now I just have to get out because it just like really kind of like hurts my energy, just kind of
mm.
just sucks it out of me, that kind of
Yeah.
stuff. Um, but I
So in
think,
terms of, I mean, that's a lot of confident, energetic people around you, for instance, that high energy, that could be misconstrued for something, couldn't it? Because actually, if that extroversion is just affecting you because essentially you're an introvert,
yeah, yeah,
would you then take that as just a clash, really, rather than
it is a clash. It's kind of like, it's kind of,
I mean, they're not.
it's that old saying, isn't it? It's kind of like, it's not personal, it's vibrational.
Yeah,
You've got a loud vibration,
I mean, they're not
and
doing it
I,
on purpose, is what I'm saying.
no,
So
no,
everyone's got a
no,
different makeup, haven't they? Yeah.
exactly. I mean, we're not, no, we're not going to get on with everybody, you know.
Mm,
Um, but it's just. I think the thing is, it's knowing that there's nothing wrong with you in that situation, not feeling comfortable, as
mm,
opposed to before I knew what an introvert was. It was kind of like I thought there was something wrong with me because I couldn't survive in that situation. I had to get out. I thought there was something wrong with me. I thought I was kind of inadequate, and it's not. It's just not the environment I resonate in. It's like taking a fish out of water or something. Um,
yeah.
um,
I mean, going back
relation.
to hurt people, I don't always think that is true either. Um,
No, I mean, I think you go. I think go either way. Hurt people can hurt people, or hurt people can be aware of
yeah,
the hurt they've received and make sure they don't give it to
exactly. Yeah.
other people.
Dish the same treatment out. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's gonna, you're going to be affected by the hurt. Um, yeah,
Yeah.
growth,
Okay,
character building.
your turn. Character building.
Okay,
And
okay.
not too much of the hurt, thank you.
Uh, Let me have a look at the list. How do you think social media affects modern relationships?
Hugely, I'd say.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Pretty much has probably blown everything out of the water since we've had social media. Perhaps it's affected relationships more than we realize,
Yeah.
because
Especially
everything's so transient,
especially as a teenager, I think,
instant.
you know.
Yeah. I mean,
I remember,
does anyone remember to have how to have a conversation other than surface, drop a couple of DMs and
and I think it as well. It was that kind of back in the old days, in 1990. It was kind of like if you wanted to see someone, you'd have to make the effort.
yeah.
You'd have to like ask them out, make phone calls, arrange to meet them, and all that kind of stuff.
I
Um,
mean, yeah, and these days you've got thousands of options. You don't need to
yeah,
pursue
exactly.
anyone to the
I
hilt
remember,
because
I remember at work
you're dead
years ago.
anyway.
It was about 15 years ago. Um, one of the someone rang the service desk, and because we had like a firewall policy, so you couldn't get on a lot of the internet in work hours because obviously they don't want you to be on the internet in work hours. This guy, this guy rang up and said, "Can he have access to Facebook?" And we said, "No, it's not part of the company policy." And he basically went, "But you're ruining my love life. You're ruining my love life." It's like, do you know you're ruining my love life? And it's like, bloody hell, you know.
Well, did he get the sack shortly after that?
I don't know what happened to him, but it is. It's that kind of.
And now there's like zero policy.
But it's like the whole kind of like what it's like with kind of text messaging. You got it's loads of things, isn't it? It's kind of like got the basic kind of like, oh, he hasn't put as many kisses as I've put, or oh, he hasn't replied yet. It's been half an hour. Then you've got the tone of the text, which could be completely misconstrued.
Exactly. Yeah, you need face-to-face conversation. That's always best. Everything is
Yeah,
misconstrued
absolutely.
on a text.
I mean, this is another reason I don't, just one of the reasons I don't subscribe to kind of like dating apps.
Mm.
It's just just feels so unnatural, such a long, unnatural process
Well,
before you
yeah,
even meet someone,
it's just shallow, isn't it? And everyone I've spoken to who's had experiences on there have just all said the same thing and they give up. I mean, there's been a few people that have met online and actually settled down, gone dating, done the whole shebang, and got married and
Yeah.
had a kid. So yeah, it's possible, but not for everybody.
But
So
like you say, it doesn't feel natural. There's nothing like, and I know
yeah,
it's kind of like,
but maybe for really positive people, they can just hone into that kind of thing, and then you know what I mean. You've suddenly just landed your
yeah, it's just
perfect
like
match or
I know
whatever.
it doesn't
But
happen every day, but just
people,
bump into someone in a cafe, and just start chatting to them, and then you
yeah.
know, and then if
I
you
mean,
want to,
obviously, the pandemic put a stop to a lot of that anyway, didn't it?
yeah,
Socially.
yeah, but before that, it's just
Well, people can't afford to go out anymore. That's the other thing, isn't it?
well, yeah, exactly. It's
And again, I've known friends who've been single for years and years because, well, one, they're not interested, or they just don't meet people because they don't go out. Or,
yeah, and this goes back to even before the pandemic, you got kids who teenagers just stay in their rooms, texting, messaging, you know, um,
we've got AI girlfriends and boyfriends now, haven't you? So
yeah, yeah, yeah.
who needs a real human, fleshy person?
But the thing is as well, but because people are, you know, that generation aren't going to be as prepared for physical communication, in the outside world, away from computers and phones,
Yeah.
meeting people, it's a counselor's dream. There's going to be a lot of fucked up people about,
Yeah. I mean, I'm really aware about that with Zach. I just want him to be, I mean, in a way, I don't want to completely shelter him, but
yeah,
equally not expose him to stuff and then, he'll just be fearful of it. Don't agree with that either. But do you know what I
yeah.
mean? It's just like they have to find out for themselves, but also
There's a bit of
just,
a fine edge in it with the
yeah,
whole
they
kind
should
of like,
take
it's that
care.
cliche thing, isn't it? I grew up in the 70s. It was like, you fell over, you cut yourself, you fell off your bike, you
Yeah, he
played
played in the
conkers,
dirt.
without having to wear goggles and hard hats, that kind of stuff. And
Yeah.
we had accidents, but
Mm.
that kind of,
Set fire to hay bales and, you know,
yeah, smash windows,
getting lost for hours and your parents wouldn't know where, and
that was
you
it.
felt
Like
like kids were safe back in the day.
summer holidays, you can have your breakfast, watch a bit of Sesame Street or whatever, then jump on your bike, meet your mates,
Yeah.
and then
But
it's about 10 o'clock in the morning, and Mum would shout out, dinner will be at 6 or something like that.
mm, yeah. So let's go back. Let's rewind. What was your first experience of, your first relationship? The tingles when you started meeting girls and stuff.
Well, I was thinking about this the other day actually.
Tingles,
It's quite no,
ready to mingle.
it
Such
was
a
quite.
blush.
I mean, I doubt she'll see. Well, she's not going to see this. I haven't seen her for 25 years or something. But this goes back to the whole kind of multifaceted thing. As this girl, the first kind of girl that I kind of, um, I thought it was love. It was at school. I thought it was love, but I look back, it's probably just kind of like the idea of love. And she kind of, when I was at school, she kind of got attracted because she saw me as this. When I was at school, it's probably because of a mask. I was this cheeky, chappy, jokey, laddish kind of guy, and she found it really attractive. And and we kind of like, came together a bit, as kind of boyfriend, girlfriend, kind of. And then I left school, and she's like a year below me, and when I left school, and the more I kind of got into it, the more I think the real me came out. As I wasn't, I wanted the more sensitive side of that of me came out, and the laddish kind of thing kind of fell by the wayside a little bit. It was still there, but the more thing at me, and you could just see that she wasn't attracted to that authentic side of me at all. It was she
Did you
liked the
write a bit of
guy.
poetry or write a bit of a?
She liked the guy I was not pretending to be. It was just it felt natural to me to be that guy at school, the jokey chappy, the class clown, and that it felt natural because I'd done it for years. I'd done it for years to make people like me, or to survive school, basically survive the bullies or survive, whatever at school, and yeah, that was the first kind of thing, really. It kind of, I really liked her, she really liked me, and then when I really started getting to like her, I kind of started showing a more sensitive side to me, which I think more repelled her than attracted attracted me to her.
Oh,
But that's just
and
it.
yeah, did you get seriously hurt back then? Did you feel really crushed? After that?
I it took me a while, a good while to get over it, to be honest with you, because I was pretty infatuated with this girl.
How
Pretty,
old were you then?
I was 16, I think I was
Tender
16,
age. Oh,
and
yeah.
yeah, it was just, and I kept pursuing her, even though she kind of could tell she didn't really want me to pursue her. You know, um, yeah, it was, and there's that age as well, 16, 17. It's just adolescence, and you just, yeah, it's just hormones, and you know
Yeah.
it's just
It's all just
it,
one big
it was,
head.
yeah, it was a pretty rough couple of years, really. But hey, man,
Are you
that's
still
the
in touch? You said.
no, 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 no. I
I thought you
haven't
said
seen her.
25. Oh, okay. I thought you
No,
said.
I haven't seen her for 25 years.
Oh, sorry, right.
Um, so yeah, it was yeah, it was difficult, difficult time, and as well, it was kind of like I was I didn't really have a really close friendship group. I had people from school I used to hang about with, but you're kind of thrown together at school, and you kind of navigate to people that kind of play football or a bit on your level musically and that. But I never felt a close friendship with people, and so
Mm,
I kind of isolated a bit for a couple of years as well. It was all yeah, yeah. God, I feel
messy.
depressed now.
That was a long time ago, so don't worry about
Yeah,
it.
yeah. No, it just kind of like just now and again. I was the other day. I was just thinking back to that version of me back then because it's like 40 years ago. 40 years ago.
Wow. Yeah,
Boom.
yeah.
40 years before that was the end of the Second World War.
Yeah, if you put it like
Crazy,
that, yeah, it's a bit
yeah.
depressing.
And
Um,
what about
but
you?
obviously, you just learn, don't you? Yeah, I mean, similar sort of time of age. I was, I was curious a lot, but I didn't let people get very close to me and stuff because, yeah, I was afraid of rejection, I think. So, they were all just really surface type interactions, and then, obviously we'd be going clubbing a lot at that point because we were living near that station where there was that cool club, and that was our Sunday routine. So it was more about music, dancing. I just loved
Yeah,
socializing, but obviously then that entailed drinking cider through a straw. Do you know what I mean? Those messy evenings, and then obviously ending
yeah.
up with probably someone I didn't really want to, snog or
So I
whatever.
remember those first kind of house parties when you leave school, and
Yeah.
and the whole kind of, I remember my kind of group of guys who used to go to the party. Goes, who are you going to try and get off with then? Who are you going to try and get off with? And
It's
you know,
always like such a goal, isn't it? Are you gonna pill tonight?
yeah, yeah, yeah. You feel, yeah, you feel it's like you have to this achievement you have to do, and it's
Yeah.
that kind of. And
Otherwise you just become a
I remember,
pariah.
I remember going to a party. I remember going to a party when I was about 16, and I hadn't even noticed she was there. This girl just came over right at the end of the night and just started snogging me. And looking at the time, I thought it's brilliant. But I just look back now, I think her friends were getting off the people, and she just felt left out. So she just grabbed the first kind of guy on his own who just happened to be me and just started snogging me. As a kind of like she didn't want to be left out. You know, we never saw each other again after that night.
Yeah, it's
You
just
know,
weird, isn't it, when you sort of come together with these people and just have some
yeah,
strange bodily interaction and then it's just all over.
yeah, yeah. It's just I
Maybe
mean I don't think we said anything to each other. To be honest with you, it was just she grabbed me, started snogging me until the end of the last song of the night, and then she went off to her friends, and everybody everybody left. It was like it's quite odd, you know.
can you stay friends with an ex?
That's a very good question. And if I think
And have
about,
you?
um, mm, mm, really, I mean, in varying degrees. I mean, my first, uh, first serious relationship, uh, no. I mean, we kind of, it's one of those things. If you bump into each other, we'll be civil, say hello, but don't keep in touch. My ex-wife, I kind of, we lived in the same town. We'd kind of bump into each other now and again, and I didn't want that to be awkward, so I kind of arranged to meet her at a cafe one Saturday and just kind of like made my amends to her about how badly I treated her and everything, and let her say what she wanted back. And then we had a hug and went our separate ways. She had a partner and everything, and but because of that, it made us when we did bump into each other, it was okay.
Yeah.
We weren't going to be friends, but just made it okay. We used to bump each other in the local Tesco's and that because I worked near there and she lived near there, and it just we used to smile and say hello, and that was enough instead of like an awkward kind of like shoot down an aisle kind of attitude. Um, and uh, but apart from that, I mean, I'm in contact with a girl I had a bit of a thing with about 10 years ago. We go for coffee um, and stuff,
Yeah,
and
that's
that's
cool.
that's kind of
And it is
okay.
really nice when you can stay amicable and maintain some kind of
Yeah, I mean,
friendship
it's that.
without,
I
yeah,
think that I think
vilifying the past, right?
well, I think what you have to do is you have to, I'm no expert, but
Neither
just
am I.
talking just about me and my ex-wife, it's good to just if you feel there's a friendship worth having there, you need to have a conversation with them and just clear
Mm,
the air,
yeah.
detach with that whole thing about clearing the past, detach from the past, then you can move forward.
Mm,
And that's definitely the way to go, I think. But again,
very
you
good.
you
Yeah.
you can only you can't um, you can't you got no control how the other person's going to react. If you do
Yeah.
have that conversation, they just might bring up loads of resentment and stuff, and it might end really badly that meeting.
Yeah.
But I think that's probably the way to go. Is just to kind of, I mean, I think you'd have to be quite. Um, I think you can't be friends straight away. It has to be a bit of
Yeah.
time,
It's
but
interesting. I
between
do
you.
know of a couple that actually live together still, and they were together for years, at least 7 years or something. They call it the 7 year itch, right?
Yeah,
And yet, they split up. They stayed in the same house. She started seeing somebody else, and they're just carrying on living together as if that whole 7 years was just the mirage.
is that
But
because they can't sell the house or something, or
no, I think it was just a conscious choice because maybe they couldn't afford to, move
yeah,
out
right,
separately
okay.
or at the same time. But
Well,
if
if that
one person, I mean,
works for them.
I could never do that. That would crush me. I mean, and there's no way I could stay friends with anyone I was in love with. That's one of the most
Yeah,
difficult things.
yeah. I mean, it's
So, yeah,
there's varying degrees, isn't there?
yeah,
If you stay friends with someone who you're kind of in love with, it's kind of there's so many different levels you have to navigate through. It's like just
mm,
being with them to begin with, and then the whole kind of thing. If they meet someone else, da da
yeah,
da da da
absolutely.
da.
And so
You
you've got
know,
to have that. That's incredible resilience to actually, you know, not have any of those feelings for that person and watch them cavort around with someone else.
yeah. I think it's that kind of unconditional love, isn't it?
Like, sure, yeah, I
Um,
do. Yeah,
but
I
but
can
it's but
understand that on a level, but
it is difficult. It is difficult when
it's not
it's
something I do. I think
no. I mean, it is yeah, it's difficult. I mean, it's obviously
each their own.
when people split up, there's going to be one person who wants to split up usually, and one person who might not want to split up. So you got that dynamic to deal with, because the one who's split up with them might think, oh, actually, it'd be right if we stay friends. But obviously, there's all more emotion on the other person's side.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's a tricky,
and maybe one of
tricky.
the hardest things to do is just to maintain any kind of connection because there is some connection, but you're still trying to work out what that is, and you can't get to that
Yeah.
kind of friendship level, or
Well, the thing is as well, it's kind of like
something that you can
when
both accept.
with those kind of um, those things, you kind of go over a line, don't you? You've gone over the line into the romantic, physical stuff,
Yeah,
and you can't step back over that line. You're over that line. That's it. So it's then um, working out a solution to make that work. As a friendship. But
yeah, or it just
I mean, one
becomes
of my best my
untenable, doesn't it?
one of my best friends. Um she's happily married with 3 kids, and she's been kind of my best friend since about 1988. And we kind of have a bit of a thing with us to begin with, late 80s,
Hmm.
and we we've managed to stay best friends. I see her like once or twice a year because she lives down in Essex and stuff, and
Oh, that's
has
cool.
got a busy life. And we're just kind of we talk about the old days, about that kind of stuff,
Yeah.
but we kind of that's 37 years ago we met, kind of thing. And um the friendships really survived, really survived.
Mm.
That's great.
Sign of a really good friendship, isn't it? When you just trust one another.
It is, and it's kind of like, and we it's one of those things where we know each other so well that we talk about everything together, like when we meet up, like relationships and relationship problems. What would you do in this situation, or
Mm.
blah blah blah. That kind of thing. Yeah, yeah, valuable. Um,
Yeah.
yes. Shall I look another question?
Yeah, sure.
Relationships. We could just go on for years, couldn't we?
Such a sensitive subject, but
What do you think is the biggest challenge facing couples today?
ooh, I just think communication is the number one thing that gets misconstrued. It's like we said earlier, isn't it? The texting stuff, it doesn't go anywhere. You can't work out what anyone wants to do through just a mere few words. You need words and encouragement and clear direction, don't you? I mean, you can do that in relationships when you live together, and you're with people. But
Yeah.
there's this really good quote. It was like, accepting breadcrumbs makes an emotional feast for a starving heart. And I thought that was
Oh,
really
blimey.
poignant, really
Profound.
poignant. Because actually,
Yeah.
yeah, you accept that sort of thing just to be a norm. It's like, oh, I'll just say a few things and that should be enough. But it's never enough because you're constantly craving more conversation.
Mm.
So yeah, for me, it's transparency in a relationship because that's everything. Then you know where you stand, right?
Yeah,
Like
absolutely. Yeah, yeah.
we're not getting any younger. We're kind of like, when you're sort of young, and like we said before, it's that sort of, fly by night kind of situations. You don't really care, and you don't get hurt. But when you do start getting hurt, you expect depth. Uh, and then
Yeah.
if those things don't get sorted out in relationships, that's where I think we come a cropper. You know, so it can take often months and years, can't it, to
Yeah,
actually
yeah, yeah.
sort it out and figure out what someone actually wants. What's been your sort of takeaway from your endings then, in terms of
Um,
you know
well, it's that
mutual agreements?
well, it's that cliche thing, isn't it? You kind of, you don't know whether you want something until you can't know whether you want it until you experience it.
Mm.
If you know what I mean? Like I can't think I want to marry that girl without first getting to know her. And I think the relationships I've had have kind of, though they've been good in their ways. It's taught me more about what I don't want than
Mm-hmm.
what I do want, and it's taught me a lot about who I am. You
Yeah.
know, as in,
But what do you think makes the relationship gel then? And what was the original question?
what's the
what
biggest the challenge facing
oh yeah.
relationships today? I mean, I think one of the biggest challenges, I mean, there's loads of them, is that we live in such a disposable society
Mm.
now. It's you know 40, 50 years ago it would have been, married, you kind of pretty much married for life kind of thing, or
Yeah.
people took
Thick and thin.
marriage,
Yeah.
people kind of like separated and divorced a lot less. But I think now it's kind of, there's so much opportunity if you look for it, online, online dating, and even when you're in a relationship, there's that kind of,
Grass is greener type of, yeah.
yeah.
You never know,
uh,
like you
but
said, until you've got a different situation going.
exactly, and it's kind of like, but again, it's that kind of thing. The grass might be greener, but it might be next door neighbour's toxic tank leaking. It's making it green. You know, um,
Exactly.
but it is that kind of. I think now, I've met so many people over the last sort of 20 years since we've had the internet and email and stuff like that, where it's been. I think my partner's having, emailing someone or texting someone. It's so easy now to have communication with people, as opposed to, like, 1990 or whatever, when if you had an affair with someone at work, it was very hard for you to communicate with them out of work if they both had different partners. Whereas now, you just, I don't know, take your phone to the toilet and you're texting them. I think I think it's too easy now. It's a lot easier now for people to stray,
Mm.
and I think it's a lot easier now to there's a lot more potential temptation about.
Of course, yeah, yeah, yeah.
You
But
know,
that's a given,
so
isn't it? Because there's so much
so I think there's kind of I think
sexuality
yeah, and I think that's
flaunted in your
kind of
face. So
yeah. So I think that's probably one of the biggest
male and
challenges is
female.
is that kind of the so much distraction in today's world. Um, and there's so much. acceptance of disposable relationships. You know,
Yeah.
it's
I
kind
mean,
of it's a little bit normalized. You know.
I've been thinking about that. It sounds like a conspiracy theory, but that AI is actually trying to take over the human race so that they're separating people to get them misaligned from their own soul. So basically, that's what they want eventually is just this mass, which is why the digital era is so huge and obviously dangerous for kids. But eventually, if they're mind programmed, all these people who've succumbed to it, they'll
Yeah, I
just
mean
become basically
Elon
a
Musk, Elon
humanoid
Musk, Elon
doing.
Musk. He's planting chips in people's brains, isn't he already? Elon Musk.
Yeah, but again, if this
You know.
this this is just such a throwaway society that it's disconnecting people from their original vows and values and whatever makes a good relationship.
Yeah,
So
exactly. I mean, it's kind of like, and you see it all the time, on TV, and and you hear about it, so much people having affairs and stuff like that. It's kind of normalized a bit, but
yeah,
it's just so, you know, compared to like 40 years ago, it's just a lot easier now to meet people if you want to for that kind of stuff. Um,
sure. And that's what if I mean, you know people who
so
make a living out of it.
yeah, yeah,
Like that's what they want. So, each their own. Again, it's just like everyone's got their own taste or way of
and I think,
but
yeah,
then, don't moan about the fact that you're not getting into a relationship if that's not what you're after. Do you know what I mean? But
yeah,
no,
yeah,
sometimes people don't stop and actually be single for a while because they just
yeah,
have to move on to the next thing, the next thing, the next thing, because that's their craving,
yeah.
it's
Well,
addiction.
exactly. It's that kind of, I don't know if that goes back to whether it's childhood or what, but it's kind of, I've known people that
Mm.
have to be in a relationship
Yeah,
with
it's supply and
with
demand, though,
someone.
isn't it? It's something about this supply that someone craves to have constantly because they're not getting nourished.
I think they
Uh,
just need to feel loved.
yeah,
People need to feel loved. They obviously
but
haven't
looking
got.
for it in all the wrong places,
Yeah,
perhaps.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
um, and also you end up sort of settling for less than you deserve, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, I
You
think
don't realize that
the,
until you don't
there's a
settle for it.
exactly. Again, going back to the kind of you might have thought it's what you want, and then 2 years later you suddenly realise it's not what you want. It's that thing you don't know until you ex- you're in whatever it is you're experiencing.
I mean, what do you think makes the unconditional bit come in? Do you think people are just throwing away relationships too fast, or do you feel what makes the components of this unconditionality, in relationships that?
Well, unconditional love, and you're talking
Yeah,
about.
I mean, yeah, well, I mean, you can't, obviously, there are some conditions, aren't there? Everything has a condition because actually you're not going to allow bad behavior, for instance, or someone,
Yeah.
abusing you, but
Oh, yeah, yeah. I mean, it's kind of. I think it's just communication and trust. You know, um, you have to demonstrate, that you through, natural actions that you love this person, and through that kind of demonstration, you kind of demonstrate trust anyway, because you,
mm,
just the way people act and what they say and stuff like that, you can tell that they're 100% loyal or whatever.
yeah, sure.
Um, so it's that kind of, communication, and I was guilty of it as well, not communicating how I felt in relation. So the relationship just trudged on, and both of us are miserable, and I
Right,
know a
yeah.
few couples like that,
Mm,
and it's kind of a lot of people sort of settle that kind of the better that they think, the better the devil you know kind of thing.
yeah.
It's that fear of the unknown. It's that fear of, well, I get single, I might end up alone, or so
Also,
I might be more unhappy than I am now, kind of thing.
sure, yeah. I mean, there's fear of dialogue, isn't there? There's fear of so many things. And then you just think, well, you've got to start somewhere because you won't get to the bottom of anything if you don't have that open conversation.
Mm.
Because yeah. So
Exactly.
like
It's
you
that
said,
kind of right.
if you're not happy in a relationship, well, you've got to convey that to someone and then try and either change it, because actually if you do love someone, you'll sort of work through it, you know. But I think emotional laziness doesn't make you want to work for something, does it? So
No, I mean, it's that kind of thing. It's that, it's an, you know, it's an esteemable act for both of you. If you're unhappy in a relationship, for you to say, I'm unhappy,
yeah.
and sort of try and fix it. And if you don't, then you agree that it's not working, and you part naturally, say naturally, at the right
Mm,
proper time, so both of you can go off and maybe find a better relationship, as opposed to
yeah.
just clinging on to each other because it's all you know, kind of thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Um,
And
mm,
I've experienced a
yeah,
few people recently as well going through their breakups, and it is really sad, especially when you see all that time and energy invested in someone, and it's
yeah,
it's like that feeling, isn't it, that if things don't change, then you're stuck in this hamster wheel, right? So
yeah. It's that kind of thing. You don't want to kind of stick with something you're unhappy in, and then 10 years later you think, oh, I wish I got out of this 10 years ago. Wasted 10 years
yeah,
of our lives. You know,
yeah, and it's so
um,
important just to focus on yourself, isn't it, anyway, and figure it out, because actually you need that time apart and space to figure out what exactly you're feeling.
yeah,
But if you can't talk about how you're feeling, then I think that's a massive barrier to have that division and separation. So
yeah.
yeah, always best to talk, which is why we're doing this podcast. um,
Exactly.
so how about, did you ever feel your relationships taught you something that now you're sort of realizing all the lessons, because you realize not what not to do, like you said
Oh
earlier.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
You know what you don't want, but do you know how, yeah, if you got involved again?
Well, I kind of know that I've always known it, kind of more of a subconscious level. But I now know that I am fiercely kind of independent and free spirited, and
Yeah.
I like to, as selfish as it might seem, I like to do what I want when I want, within
So you'd find it hard to
reason.
compromise?
No, well,
Or,
I find it hard. I'd find it hard to, the thought of a conventional relationship doesn't appeal to me. The kind of living together, B&Q on Sundays, cutting the grass, that kind of thing. Just
yeah.
doesn't which is kind of what I've experienced, and now I kind of know that I don't want that. I kind of, I'd like to be in a relationship, but still have my own space,
Mm,
and I think, I'm just surmising here because I've not experienced this kind of relationship, but kind of like, we live separately and see each other a few times in a week, but then we can go away. And then I think if you go away and then you come back again, it gives you more stuff to talk about, gives you more
yeah,
kind
yeah.
of freshness to the relationship.
Hmm.
You each have your own space. Um, that kind of thing just kind of appeals to me. But I think that's the whole introvert thing. I want to meet someone to spend the rest of my life with who'll leave me alone most of the time.
Yeah.
That kind of thing. I'd love to kind of like, have a be in love and everything like that.
I mean, do you think those are sorts of discussions? Obviously, say if you went speed dating or something, you'd be like, right, this is what I want out of someone, and
Yeah,
they'll
yeah,
fit the
yeah,
bill,
yeah,
or else you're out.
yeah, yeah. So
Let's
yes,
not even go there.
yeah. I mean, it's.
And yeah,
But I think I've had so much, and I've got a friend like this as well. And I think I've kind of the two major relationships I've had, um, very lovely people, but I kind of realised from that I just don't like the whole convention of living together and
Mm.
that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
Just the
if it
thought,
gets stifling because you
just
just
the
feel
thought of that kind of
restricted.
like sends shivers up my spine. You know, and
Yeah.
I've been
Unless you had a
single.
really massive house, you could just get the
Yeah,
hell away from each other.
but I've been single a lot more than I've been in relationships. And and because of that, being single is kind of more of my norm.
Mm.
So I kind of feel normal. I know
Yeah.
when I've had relationships, suddenly it just feels this kind of abnormalness that I have to adapt to. you know,
Right. Yeah.
and then
Well, a
I
lot
have
of
to
people.
try and rationalize the old feelings of like, this is it, caged in.
Well, again, you've got to meet someone who I think you truly gel with to then talk about those things.
Yeah,
Because actually,
but if
then you
I,
wouldn't be afraid to broach those subjects, right? You
yeah,
actually
I mean,
say, "Hey, I'm a little bit like this, so
I think it's like what you said a
mind."
minute ago. It's kind of like, depends on who you meet as well. If you meet someone, you're kind of like, you've never felt anything like it before. It's like you're destined. It's like you're made for each other. Obviously that's going to play a role in how the relationship is as well with the stuff I've just mentioned.
Mm.
Um, it's just, if I want to go and play guitar fucking all night, I want to do it. You know,
Yeah. But
you know
then
what I
there's that
mean?
misconception that, say women for you guys, that a woman would then not want you to do those things because, like you say, you want to go to B&Q and, or, come and hang out with my friends or those sorts of relationship dynamics. I think a lot of couples obviously have it down, so they've got their own
Yeah,
friend sets and whatever. But if you haven't got a lot of friends, that's okay, You
yeah.
kind of just, you can
I
just
mean,
chill and do your own
but
thing.
I think age has got a lot to do with it as well. As you get older, I think
Yeah.
maybe you kind of want kind of more, companionships.
Yeah.
You want to grow old with someone, that kind
Yeah,
of
and then it
stuff.
doesn't become all about you know, sex, does it? Because you want that companionship over constant.
Yeah.
But obviously chemical attraction's got to be there.
Oh yeah. I mean, you still want the physical side, but I think
Do you know what I mean, though?
your outlook changes. You want um, someone there.
I think at our age, a lot of people are thinking about this. That, oh, time's running out. Oh my God, if we don't meet people, who's going to look after me when I'm older? Or, kind of just some
Yeah, yeah. Well,
basic
I've had a lot of that. I think we've both had
kind
that,
of
haven't we?
worries. Yeah.
But yeah, yeah. It is that scary thing. Am I gonna you know,
Experience if we were single at an old age.
yeah. And I've known women who in their 40s just marry someone that they've known for 6 months because they don't want to be alone. And then a few years later, the marriage just falls apart because it was just done for completely the wrong reasons.
Yeah, nothing
Um,
can survive on falsehoods, that's for sure.
yeah, yeah. But yeah, I mean, I think I'm a bit complicated as far as the relationship stuff goes. Um,
And what would you look for in someone then if you did meet somebody? What's your kind of top qualities in
um,
a lady?
again, someone free spirited,
Yeah.
and independent. Um, yeah, just someone, a bit out of the norm, a little bit out of the norm, a bit quirky, bit different, bit kind of, bit, yeah, just a bit quirky, bit different, bit spontaneous. Someone I could lay in bed with and wake up on a Saturday and say, should we drive to Brighton right now? And,
Or like, would you mind leaving now? I'll see you in a week.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
I mean,
Fuck off.
that's kind of what
No,
you
but
were alluding to earlier. But
yeah,
yeah,
no, no, but
um,
someone a bit quirky, a bit kind of, you know, if I had to pin it down, I'd say someone like Natalie Portman's character in A Garden State, the film A Garden State, sort of quirky, uh, interesting, and uh, has this kind of real attractive quirkiness about her. She's different, and but she's not trying to act as if something she's not, and she's funny and um, independent, but fiercely kind of loyal as well. Fiercely kind of
Yeah.
just someone a bit out the norm, really. And I said out the norm with me, I don't really want to do conventional stuff in relationships.
Yeah.
A
You're
bit
gonna have
a
to hang around
bit
Pinewood
like that.
Studios or something.
Yeah, yeah. She has split up from her husband, didn't she?
Did she?
Or
Oh dear.
partner. I don't think. Yeah, I think he had an affair. Fool. What a fool.
That's a celebrity world.
Yeah. But yeah, just someone a bit, yeah, a bit quirky, independent, quirky, you know, different, someone a bit different.
Yeah. I mean, someone who just gets you, and you don't feel shy around them.
Someone
It's better
that's, yeah,
kind of like that, can't it?
someone who kind of brings you alive and you don't feel you have to wear any masks around them.
Yeah, exactly.
Immediately. And they don't, it's that cliche thing. They don't mind all your shit, you know,
Well, I think,
when
yeah, but
when
that's
you kind of if you get emotional, they don't judge you on that or whatever.
sure. Well, that's the other thing, though, isn't it? It's when how do these couples kind of go for years of sort of not being able to have those discussions and then coming out of it feeling satisfied that you've really gone through everything that you can get off your chest or, talk about, because that person has to hold space for you. And if they don't, it pretty much feels like a dead end road, right? You don't,
Yeah, well, some people go to
you can't.
relationship counselors, don't they, for that kind of thing.
Yeah, but
Whereas
I
kind of
suppose does that then go back to the
referees,
person's just not attracted to you anymore? Therefore, then they don't want to hold that space for you. That
well, not
could
exactly. And
just be as black and white as that.
this is where all kind of like honesty, authentic
Exactly. Yeah.
kind of stuff comes
What do
in.
you want from me?
And you got to like,
I
it's kind
can't
of
give it to
like,
you then.
it's either you potentially hurt them or you hurt yourself.
Yeah.
If you tell them everything's okay when it's not, you end up feeling shit.
Sure.
But
And if you feel like you're
if
lying to them,
you tell them the
a big
truth,
no-no.
I'm not happy in a relationship, I want to leave,
Yeah,
they're going to not be happy about it, but that's just fact of life. But everything about that is authentic. You told them authentically how you feel, and they've behaved authentically, either hurt or happy or whatever, as
yeah,
opposed to being non-authentic and lying and then them believing something that's not real, you know.
for sure. Well, it goes into that arena of, other people and perhaps what other people have said about you, and your partner thinks that side of things is true rather than some sort of false supposition. Therefore, if you don't get a chance to air it or tell your side of the story, you don't get heard. So that can easily just slip into
Yeah,
that. You know what? You're just written off because that person has not heard or even believes your side. So
yeah,
then you're up against a bit of a brick
yeah,
wall, aren't you?
yeah,
So yeah, there's so many. It's just so complicated. Um, but
yeah.
just a human condition, isn't it?
It is, it is.
No one has a perfect relationship, obviously.
No,
I'd
no.
like
I
to get
mean,
some guests one day who kind of maybe nailed it, and
yeah,
because again, like I think we haven't broached the subject of potential mental issues like autism, ADHD, all these things that can couples don't talk about. There's OCD as well. I mean, I know for a fact that I'll probably maybe, and I've taken that accountability for myself that there's certain things I've been very finicky about. You know, from just seeing things on the floor.
yeah,
Having
yeah.
to pick those same things up all the time. And
What you mean with the people you share your apartment with at the
I don't know, I've
moment?
seen a few of these things, and sometimes it is a bit of a battle of the sexes. I think women are natural kind of domestic goddesses, obviously, you know, and that's why you keep things at a surface level because going deep is, painful. It's going into a really shadowy depth that most people, I mean, yeah, if it was all cool and kind of 75% of the time, you just get on, right? Like you said, you just want to be left alone, or
Yeah.
your partner just knows all your ins and outs, and then you're in and out of each other's lives. If you don't know what's going on in each other's lives, you're kind of
Well, if you don't know how
in the dark.
you don't,
But then
yeah,
nothing
if you
gets talked
don't,
about, and that's it.
yeah, if you don't know how you're feeling or the other person's feeling about the relationship, they're telling you it's great, even though you know they don't mean it.
Mm.
Unless they're prepared to have that conversation.
Yes.
You're just going, and that's something I've been guilty of in the past. Just kind of cowardly trundling along, hoping that, you know, unhappy in a relationship, hoping that I'll wake up one day and something miraculously has happened, and um, I haven't had to put any action in. It's just happened for me in some way. Um,
How do you mean in terms of
well, just being unhappy with someone,
a
but
natural breakup?
yeah, too scared to be, you're unhappy with someone, but you're too scared to tell them how you feel. You don't want to upset
Right.
them, or you think about all the things you have to, oh my God, we live together. So
Mm.
there's all the kind of practical stuff and how they're going to react and everything like that. So you don't say anything because it's kind of, you know, you just resign
Let it
yourself,
down.
thinking, well, it's easier just to carry on. But you
Yeah.
do, but in your heart of hearts, you hope something will happen that will force the breakup. You know,
Yeah. And
so you
also
don't.
there's that period of grief, isn't there? You really can't slight that for a minute, because obviously it's something you've got to honor, right? Because you've spent so much time. For instance, couples
Yeah,
have spent, 10 years together, and such a massive thing to
yeah.
away from.
Yeah, I mean, I've split up with people, and it's kind of, and if I've wanted to split up with someone, it's kind of like I'm really unhappy. I want to split up. We split up. I've had 6 months or so where I'm just being miserable because even if you don't want to be with this person, there's still this gap in your life from where that person was.
Sure, yeah.
And and it can be very tempting just to go back with them, you know.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, it's just from both sides. There's like emotions you have to deal with.
Mm.
Um,
And how did you experience your musical journey then with these relationships? Were they quite understanding at the time, when you were embarking on all those projects, and obviously gigs with your brother or friends, or if they knew that side of you, do they let you go and do your thing? And
what do you mean? What do you mean?
did they go to your gigs? Were they supportive of your music?
Oh, on partners.
Yeah,
Oh yeah, 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 yeah,
yeah,
yeah, yeah. They kind of really kind of supported me. Could have asked for more really. Um, you know, uh, yeah, don't know what to say about that. Yeah, whether they wanted to or not, is
yeah,
another thing. But
yeah. And I was just wondering, because obviously that can be a clash to a lot of people who have musicians as partners.
no, I mean, there has been times with partners where it's kind of. I remember I was recording with a band and we had to do like we did a weekend recording. I was living with a girlfriend and we did a weekend recording. And they were kind of okay about that, and then we had to go back for a few evenings and look at the final mixing and stuff like that. And I remember once the girlfriend was like just pissed off that I was spending so much time doing it, and feeling neglected, I think. And again, it's probably my fault because I didn't when I wasn't doing all the music stuff. I was probably talking about it or not giving them enough kind of energy or
Yeah,
reassurance back. You know, um,
gosh, yeah, it's just such a muddy.
I mean, these people that are married to sort of touring musicians, they must be, unless they can go with them. But it's such go away for 6 months of the year. It must be, yeah, special relationship.
Challenging.
Mm.
Yeah, I mean, you've got to have a lot of trust, I think, in
No,
that respect.
absolutely in that game. Yeah,
I mean, couples have done it, right? Because Sting and Trudy,
yeah. Yeah, there's
Toya and Fripp.
some survive, some survive. But again,
Yeah.
it just depends how those two people, individual people, approach that situation of one of them having to be off
Mm.
amongst temptation away from them for months at a time, you know.
Or you just realize that you're totally asexual and you just don't think about it. So, if you understood each other's vibe in that respect, I guess it just wouldn't even enter your sphere, would it?
Yeah, I mean, I remember I had an interview with in the midnight Britpop was at its peak, and Justine Frischmann was it out of Elastica who was going out
Oh,
with
yeah.
Damon out of Blur. They were like the golden couple, weren't they? The Britpop. Anyway, I read an interview with her, and she said it would be unreasonable for her to think that when Damon goes away on tour that he doesn't sleep with anybody. You know, as long as she doesn't know about it. Um,
Exactly. What you don't know doesn't hurt
yeah.
you.
Ironically, I
Yeah.
remember, I remember about 1998. I was in out in pub, and there were some people there, and there's a bloke there and his girlfriend, and I was chatting to her, and someone said, "Oh, she lost her virginity to Damon Albarn out of Blur."
Blimey.
So, I don't think it was very romantic. I think it
Behind a
was
hay
like
bale
I think it was
or
like yeah,
sausage van or something.
half an hour in a hotel room,
Oh, right.
possibly if she was lucky.
Mm.
But yeah, I mean, again, it's
Yeah, so if you've got that rampant appetite for those experiences
but it's
and the
then
novelty,
you
you've
get
got to
these
be
other
able to.
couples, um, polyamory couples, that,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
that's the kind of thing I really can't get my head around. But I've kind of I have to tell myself that just because I don't understand it doesn't mean it's not right. If you know what I mean?
Mm.
Because I'm not built like these people that are doing it. They're obviously doing it for a reason, and if it works for them, great. Um,
You think it's just escaping the side of rejection that you don't really want by sticking around, and then therefore you never get hurt because you're basically um,
yeah, I don't
multi
know. I mean, I
multi
don't know.
habiting.
I think I said last time I followed this podcast, polyamory couple,
Mm.
um, and they do. I think I said last time they do a podcast of them making the fictional one of them making podcast. But it just seems, yeah. I mean, I
Is it
don't
just a
know.
modern term for swinging, though? Suddenly everything's like, hey, yeah, I'm a polyam.
I think it's just a modern term for like an open relationship,
Right,
really.
yeah. I mean,
I think these people obviously have rules and stuff, but
but,
if
so
I
if you
if
weren't
I
speed dating, you could again say that, couldn't you?
yeah,
That's my
but I
bad.
think I'd if I knew my girlfriend or wife was going out with someone else this evening, would I be able to just sit in and watch Netflix or be fine about it, or would I just
Mm,
be pacing with all sorts of things going through my head? But again, I'm not. It's not something I would do polyamory, so
mm.
um,
Yeah,
I
not on
can't
my
really I can't really
preference list at
judge
all.
on it. If it works for them, it works for them.
Yes, live
Um,
and let live, I say.
yeah, absolutely. As long as no one's getting hurt. Good
Exactly.
luck. Good luck
Just
to you.
mutual consent and all that. Um,
Absolutely.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
So, you haven't had any
I
more
was on,
voles
I was on a
recently?
Teams call yesterday.
Oh,
Yesterday
what? Sorry.
afternoon. A Teams call yesterday afternoon with
All right.
a colleague from work about work, and I was just mentioning about the cat bringing in stuff, and then the cat brings in a bird in the
Oh,
middle of this
really?
Teams call. So I had to like say, hold on a
You
minute,
manifested that
grab
in
my sieve and get the bird, and
sieve.
yeah, I've got a
You got a vole sieve. Oh, wow. Yeah.
so I have like a because the cat usually wherever it is dumps it in front of me, and I've got like a split second where the animal will be stationary. If it's a bird, it's not too bad. If it's a vole,
Oh, no.
vole
Yeah.
either play. If it's an older vole, they usually play dead for a few seconds. But if it's a younger one who doesn't know any better, they just fucking leg it to the edge.
Yeah. And so do most of them escape alive?
Yeah, they don't. They're not injured when he brings them in. I just have to find them, and then luckily I try and wedge them into the kitchen because kind of strangely, my sister's kitchen has no uh, access that he can get to once he's in the kitchen. He can't goes around the edges, but there's nothing he can get into. He can't get behind anything or into anything. So I just get in the corner, trap it with my sieve, bit of cardboard underneath, and up the road with it. Um,
Wow.
right, okay. So let's have a look at some questions.
Things we do. Luckily, I don't really have any of that problem because I'm on a sort of second floor situation.
What advice would you give to someone recovering from a breakup?
Yeah, I'd just say honor the time apart that you're going to feel lonely because it really sucks. Um, but also each day gets easier. So it's about getting through the days, filling your days up, stay busy, do nice things for you, go for lots of walks, just take time out for self-care. Yeah, and maybe get back to the person you thought maybe you'd lost.
Mm,
That's what I'd say. And realize that time is a healer.
absolutely.
Oh, very cheesy that was. That's what I'd say. What would you say?
Yeah, I mean, it's just like just basing off experience. It's kind of like, um, if you split up with them, remember what made you unhappy in that relationship. So you're not sort of blinded and then think, oh, I need to go back to them, because I've done that before. Um, but it's also, I think it's that kind of just going through the whole kind of shit, of it, and but not doing that alone. I've been to counsellors and that when I split up with people just to offload, my head because my head's been pretty rough with it,
Mm,
and then I come out feeling I've got a hand, not great, but I've got a handle on it. Um, and kind of, doing what you love, even though you don't love doing it, playing the guitar, even though you don't feel like it, or going for a walk or a cycle, even though you don't feel like it. And
yeah.
um, it's just, yeah, steam of a axe for yourself, but kind of, knowing that, remembering how unhappy you were, the reasons you left, and just remind yourself that you will get better. I remember when I split up with my ex-wife, and I was the one that split us up, and I spent 6 months unhappy, just in my drinking days, so drinking far too much, and because it was all strange, this strange new life. I was stupidly thought, oh, I'll split up with her, and next day will be the start of the great new life. It wasn't. It just took a lot of pain and emotion and horrible times and that. But I remember I got to after about 6 months, I got to a point where there was a bit of a shift. There's a bit of a shift, and it felt like I was going into a better era with my life. I still wasn't too sure, but I started to get confidence, I think, in this new life. And as soon as I started getting confidence, then things started falling into place. I started getting enthusiastic about making plans about, where I'm going to live next and what I'm going to do, and then, and this is around the time I met you, actually. A few months later, I met
Yeah.
you, I decided that was it. I decided to, like, I remember I was staying in on Saturday nights at my sister's, which ironically is where I'm living at the moment. And I remember I thought, oh, I'm going to write some songs on a Saturday night. So I'd get a bottle of red wine, and I'd start writing songs and I'd record them on I can't remember what I was recording on a phone or something then.
Mm.
and then I got enough songs, and I thought I'm going to put an advert out for a singer and do some new music, and that's you uh, replied within half an hour of me putting that advert on,
Yeah, and
and
the
that's
rest
how
is
kind of like,
history.
yeah, exactly, and that's how my life kind of changed. Went the Christmas, so it's 2006 and 2007. I was miserable. I remember literally crying in the car once on the way home from work, thinking, like, and that was the kind of shifting point because then my friend Karen from work, she sort of said, let's go and have coffee on Saturday. And then I got some uh, adverts from the estate agents about flats to buy. So I started doing all these things, taking me, in the direction of going forward as opposed to going back. And
Mm,
that's when, and then I started getting feeling a bit better, and I started doing music with my brother's friend, and then I started writing some of my own songs, um, and then we got together, and that kind of, and that was, and all that Top Ness adventure happened, and
yeah.
all kind of, and that's kind of, if you'd said to me, it's like, when you split up with someone, it's like, oh, I'm going to be miserable for the rest of my life. I'm never going to meet anybody. You know, if you'd have told me when I split up with my ex-wife that, in a year's time, I'm feeling miserable now, but in a year's time, I'm going to be living in a new flat. I'll be doing music with a great singer. I'm going to be have this other social life. You know, I'm going to have more tattoos. Whatever. You just don't think it. You just think, oh, life's going to be stationary. I'm never going to meet anybody.
Yeah, you just
You
don't look
know,
ahead, do you?
you just feel stuck basically. And
Yeah,
it's easy for me to say all this stuff now. It's not so easy when you do split up with someone to kind of think of those kind of things.
sure, yeah.
Um, but yeah, just kind of keep, having faith and hope
Yes.
and moving forward, doing all the stuff that's good for you. And that's why I joined again. That's why when I first started going to yoga was beginning of 2007. My friend Karen again, she got me into going to yoga. She goes, "We need to find a yoga class," and she did. She found us one. And that's the one I still go to.
Yeah, it's brilliant.
And all that stuff
Yeah,
helped. You know,
yeah. I don't looking back, you just realize so many things have a cycle to them, in such an intense way. It's like some things have such an impact on your life, and you realize that was a cycle you had to go through. And obviously, when me and
yeah,
you met, it was just everything was chaos, pure chaos. But also, we buffered each other's grief, and obviously, we went through our divorces. I'd just come out of an abusive time, and it was just this. I realized, wow, I've got a lot of healing to do and therapies to go through, which I did. So, and that's another thing I'd say to people is the time is a healer, because actually looking back, I feel that was obviously, it did happen to me, but it's because of all the therapy I had. It's like it happened to a version of me. And so
yeah,
I feel for that person. I mean, I look back at her now and I just think, okay, um, you
yeah.
went
I
through a
know.
lot of stuff, but you came out of it. So
Yeah, yeah,
you're a survivor. That journey was meant to play out like that, because it was untenable. It had to completely implode, which it did, and then I was out of that abusive situation. So then looking back, I realized, oh, I'm not going to get into that sort of situation again.
yeah. So
Learn something.
learning through experience. You wouldn't have
Uh,
learned that if you hadn't gone through the experience.
mm,
You know, and
sure.
it's that kind of thing. It's like,
Well, it's surprising what you allow, because obviously back then I was a lot more gullible. I'd say I was a lot more. I thought I was actually gonna, yeah, just continue loving this person, you know, and
mm,
having this warped view of love. It's so distorted. Took me a long
yeah,
time to figure it out.
yeah,
And obviously, when you see flags, or you just think, oh, yeah, just get out of the kitchen. It's getting too hot, whatever. But yeah, it's
yeah. And I'm a big believer in spiritually. Certain people come into your life at times. And you have this adventure with them, and then
I mean, it expands your own, I suppose it just expands this inner understanding of yourself as well, doesn't it? Because it's not just, something. I
Yeah,
mean,
I
like,
think
you went out with your wife for a long time before you married, and then it's a big commitment, and then coming out of that, it's
yeah, I mean it's you're basically changing your way of life immediately.
yeah. But I mean,
You
you
know,
can't take for granted what you've been through. You can't just get over something like that overnight.
oh no, 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 at all.
Yeah.
Because
So
you unless you're kind of narcissistic, we're emotional beings, and
yeah,
you're gonna feel emotion, even if it's you're gonna, like you said earlier, it's a grieving process, even if you're the
yeah,
one that wanted to leave. It's still a grieving process because it's the death of something. Death of. I remember, I remember when I knew the relationship wasn't working. Um, about a month afterwards, I started having these weird dreams about my mum, and separate dreams where my mum or my dad would be dying.
mm,
And I'd be in this dream, I'd be absolutely inconsolable, just crying my eyes out, absolutely, and now I kind of see it as my subconscious just telling me that that's the subconscious way of saying the relationship's died, you know,
mm-hmm.
and
It's interesting.
and it
Yeah,
and
it's
it and
almost
it
like
had,
that divine masculine, divine feminine, the
yeah, but
polarities, and
the,
yeah,
the timing I had these dreams, I had like four or five of them.
mm-hmm.
It was either my mum or my dad, and I was exactly the same in the dream. It was death, and I'd be inconsolable, just this grief, and it was at the time when the light bulb moment came on, and it was like, this relationship isn't. I'm not happy in this relationship, you know.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, signposts. I completely ignored them, obviously.
No, of course. And then you get involved with other people and you think, oh, it'll be fine. And you realize you haven't sorted your last baggage out. And then it's kind of,
Yeah, yeah. I mean,
it's a lot to work through.
yeah,
But again,
just
it's being with the right person who really is going to listen to you, sit down, and give you the time of day. That's all people want, really.
yeah. I mean, people have busy lives and busy internal lives,
Yeah,
and you have to, respect when people can't give you their time,
sure.
and
But I mean, these days there's a lot talked about with the narcissistic streaks or personality disorders. The um, what's the other stuff. Obviously, we're talking about polyamory and all these aspects of relationships that are very important because maybe they do play a part in everything. Because obviously, you don't realize that you've been experiencing this thing until you get out of it and you realize, oh yeah, maybe I don't want to label that thing, but actually I experienced a lot of those traits, or someone seems
yeah,
to be fundamentally selfish, or whatever those, and then you think, oh, all these people are talking about it, and they've had similar experiences. So it sounds, it's like an endemic or something.
yeah. I think you can get kind of blinded by it, when you're in the.
But also, why is it so then prevalent? Why is it happening so much to people with that? So does that mean there's just a general breakdown in communication? Or does it mean we're all flawed? We're all on the spectrum on different levels,
Well,
So
I think maybe it's always been around. It just didn't have a label before, a lot of it,
yeah.
and
I mean, if you felt I mean, for instance, now, I would be quite happy to talk about my personal struggles with mental health that I, have on a day-to-day basis or whatever it may be. I
mm,
mean, perimenopausal, whatever. Um, I'd like to think I can talk to someone about that. So, as a man, would you feel open to discussing those things if you'd met someone now? Then,
yeah, yeah. I mean, this is one of my downfalls. I'm kind of one of these people that, because I don't like small talk and that, I'll meet someone,
mm.
within a couple of minutes say, "What do you think happens with life after death?" That kind of thing.
Yeah.
But I'm very open to talking about stuff. My mental health problems, my suicide attempts, my drinking issues. I'm quite happy to talk about it, but it's the right people.
Mm.
I remember this girl I was really into, um, and she saw the scars on my arms, and when I try to kill myself. And I could see her looking at them, and I think she said to a friend about them. So and one night I saw her looking at them. I said, "Oh, do you want me to tell you about them?" And I told her about them and the mental health stuff, and she was just like, just didn't understand whatsoever. You could tell it was like put her off me.
Mm.
You could just tell. So it's that thing. I don't mind talking about all this stuff. I'm very open about it,
Hmm.
but it's just who I'm telling it to.
Yeah, sure.
It's that kind of like, um, if people don't understand them, but they're interested and ask questions, that's great. But if people just kind of like, uh, mm,
Sure, yeah. More often than not, they're
you're
just in
kind of
shock,
like,
I guess.
you're kind of like, you're kind of, you're mental, aren't you? You're mental. I've got to go. That kind of attitude. Um,
Right. So I've
so
experienced the same with jobs, weirdly. I mean, that's the thing. I think employers have some sort of problem with someone who's lost their parents. I can laugh about it now, but it's
mm,
not funny. It's actually, it's quite debilitating that, you can't sit and have that honest conversation with someone who completely blanks you if you've then gone into that conversation of, oh, and this year I was caring for my mother, or,
yeah,
couple of years before that, I was caring for it's all these things. It's sort of, oh yeah, you must be really
you're an emotional person,
impressive
aren't you? You're an
person, or
emotional
yeah.
person.
So that judgment, you just it's all over the place. So you
Yeah, I've
can't
got a
really get
mate.
away from it. So that alone, you have to sort of deal with mentally because you kind of just feel like
Well, I
an
think especially,
anomaly
especially in the workplace, I haven't.
without feeling victimized, though, right?
Yeah, I
Because
mean, I haven't experienced it in the workplace, but I've got a mate who has, and he's had bosses that are just totally kind of, um, uh, just pull yourself together. You got work to do. You know, and which has made him even more, affect his mental health even more.
yeah,
Um, so, but I think it's good that compared to like 30 years ago, it's much more open topic to talk about. People are
yeah.
more aware of it and aware of, feel much easier to talk about that kind of stuff.
Yeah, sure. I'd say they
Um,
are in there, probably organizations and individual. Now there's all these wellness programs and,
yeah, yeah,
obviously awareness. But I think to take on a new person into your company, knowing that they've been through that journey, it's slightly different because,
yeah,
they'd rather choose someone who's perhaps not, well, unless you've got some shining CV, with all the credentials. uh,
yeah. That's unfortunately, yeah, that's the thing. They
you
kind
know
of
what I mean? It's you, Yeah, because
they immediately
if you
look at
don't
that
get a
kind of
response, it just means, oh, okay, you didn't acknowledge my grief or the
yeah.
fact that I have got experience.
I mean, I think
So,
unfortunately they kind of in the workplace they kind of wrongly acknowledge that as a kind of uh, a weakness,
mm.
in kind of um, and you might need to have time off for some of the
Yeah.
mental health stuff.
And again, how much time do you give, a grief journey? I mean, that's
I'll
a
tell
whole
you,
different video, right? But
there's been so many people
yeah.
at my where I work. There's been so many people. I have to kind of like delegate work sometimes between people because they can't do it themselves. And
Hmm.
the amount of people the reason is because so and so's on long term sick. It
Right.
could be anything, could be cancer, could be anything, but there seems to be a lot more of it.
Sure, yeah.
I mean, a girl I was seeing years and years ago, her company, she she uh, she went off with stress,
Hmm.
and then after 3 months, she had to resign. You know,
Oh.
and you get another mate. He where he works, he he uh, he got a new boss, and the boss did a Teams call and sort of said to the team, tell me how you've been working up until now, and I think a couple of them just burst into tears because of it being
Mm,
so stressful, you know.
yeah.
Um,
I suppose there is that. Yeah, because
and they don't want to because they don't want to say anything because they think, oh, I'm going to lose my job, you know,
yeah.
or demoted or whatever, you know, it will go against me, you know. Yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, well, you need your space as well.
Mm.
You know, you've got to look after yourself.
Well,
Yeah.
it's amazing because I did get a lot done actually. I was suddenly got this creative burst. Do you know what I mean? I did a bit of my course and I did a bit of sketching, this and that and the other, you know, trying to obviously keep up with the band
I
stuff.
have, yeah, I think you had
Started
that.
writing out the lyrics again, you know, that kind of thing. Kind of thing. Oh, I've got
Yeah.
time to do this.
And I think that's it. You kind of like when you suddenly get that kind of uh, time frame, you feel like uncaged. You suddenly get this burst of
Mm.
enthusiasm to do stuff, you know.
Yeah. And then catching up with people, you know, I haven't spoken to for a while, that kind of thing.
How's the tooth stuff? Is that all
Oh,
cleared up?
cool.
Cleared up?
It's a bit weird actually not having a. Have you got all your wisdom teeth?
I am having one out later on in the year. Yeah.
Oh, really? Oh, yeah. So yeah, my left on the back, top, upper. Oh my, that was one of the worst things I've been through. I had to
Mm,
have double anesthetic, and then I still felt this pain. I literally jolted in the seat. She was like, "What?" She got right up there, you know.
mm.
Uh, so freaked out, and then she gave me some more anesthetic, and then that seemed to work. But you know, you could feel the root of just like it feels like your whole gums coming away. And then after that, she was trying to talk to me. I'm like, what am I going to do now? And she's kind
Did,
of
did
like,
you
you have
did
to
you
go to the hospital because actually we couldn't take the root out. And I was like, really? That didn't sound good. So obviously I came home and Googled it and everything. I was like, oh shit, you know, this doesn't look good. They've
so have
left
you had
root in.
if you is the root still in then?
Yeah, apparently so. But sometimes it doesn't affect anybody for years, you know? So they just do a sort
Mm.
of routine check again, send you to a specialist. I mean, obviously the waiting list is like months long. So far so good now. I'm just trying not to fiddle around with it too much. And it's healed over, it's great, but I couldn't eat for a good week there properly, you know. Yeah.
Something for me to look
Um,
forward to there.
it's weird though, isn't it?
Mine's the
'Cause
top upper as well.
you don't.
Top upper left.
Oh, right. Oh, yeah, that could be painful then, love. I mean, I remember having one out as a kid though, but I don't remember it being that painful.
You had a lot of pain beforehand, didn't you, as well?
And maybe you're just a bit, you know, your gums are less
Did your face
rooted.
swell up at all?
Oh yeah.
No.
I just walked through town looking like the elephant girl.
Mm, mm,
No, it wasn't good.
mm.
And then I literally cried all day because I just missed my mum and I was just in pieces. So I was just like thinking, this pain is unbearable. I took so many painkillers, but no, the pain just wasn't going. So
I
yeah,
look at stuff like that. It's just like, stuff like that. That happens to your body. It's like a battle scar of life, isn't it?
yeah,
You
I
know.
don't want too many of those either. Thank you.
Mm.
So maybe there's a song there somewhere.
Yeah. So
Um,
we're rehearsing 2 weeks tomorrow. I have to
yeah,
learn. Yeah, one of the things I'll do this week is learn painting the blues again.
yeah, I'm really pleased we're dishing out some of the old numbers because you know they're really cool corkers, aren't they? Really, yeah.
These
Let's
I'll
do.
probably
Oh,
drive anyway.
yeah, sure.
Whereabouts is it? Shoreditch.
Shoreditch. Yeah.
Okay.
Was there anything else you wanted to talk about before we sign off?
No, I think that's about it. I think it's
I think we've
two
covered
hours,
it.
two
Yeah.
hours worth.
Wow, we've covered a lot, and
And buy tickets to our gig in August
yes, please do come along. Look forward to
if you're
seeing you.
in London geographically.
Yeah, and yeah, time is a great healer. So
Mm.
do all the things that bring you joy and be content.
Soul nourishment, do whatever nourishes your soul,
Okay
whatever it
then.
is. All right, well, I'll
Okay.
speak to you soon.
Take it easy. Hope you sleep
Take it
well
easy.
tonight.
And you. Oh,
Look
yeah,
after
and you.
yourself.
Yeah, and you.
Bye.
Bye.